takes it in overtime. Brady Tkachuk, breakaway shoots, scores!
Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon and I am your host. I know it's been a while. I do apologize. I haven't uploaded a video since our final recap video of the season earlier in April. It's been over 10 days. I do apologize, but I do have a good excuse. It's been final season. I have a lot of classes, a lot of final assignments and stuff I had to finish. So I had to get that done over the last couple of weeks. I really had to focus on that. So I do apologize. I'm sure you understand, but I hate when I can't make videos. So I just wanted to say I do apologize. But a lot, and I mean a lot, of content is coming your way this off season. Firstly, we're going to have about 2-3 episodes of Sens Talk each week during the off season. I'm already planning interviews, so there should be good ones coming out soon. Let's Talk episodes will be in full swing very soon as well. A lot of topics to cover in that series. As well, over the next couple of weeks, be on the lookout for our season in review series. We're going to take a look at the goaltending, the defense, and the forwards individually. So we're going to take a look at every single player at each position. We did it last year. You guys loved it. We're going to bring it back again. But in this video, I can't really look at each individual player because we're kind of looking at the bigger picture thing. You know, we're looking at new ownership. We're looking at attendance. We're, of course, looking at the on-ice product too and how the players did. But this video is more about the big picture, about everything. So I want to have time to take a look at each position and how each individual player in that position did. I already looked at the numbers a little bit, and there are some really interesting numbers to take a look at. So I'm really excited for that. Be on the lookout for that in the next couple of weeks. Now with that, let's get into today's video. So why was this season not a failure? Well, I'm glad you asked. Look, our core guys took a massive step forward. Tim Stützle, 90 points, 51 apples, 39 goals, nearly a 40-goal campaign. Tim Stützle emerged as a top 15 player in the National Hockey League, an absolute superstar. Jake Sanderson easily could have won the Calder this season. I don't think he's going to. It's probably going to go to somebody else, but he definitely should be in the conversation for it because Jake Sanderson, by the way, an Olympian, had an incredible debut NHL season this season, and an elite defenseman. Late in the year, with Shabbat and Chikrin out, and even Hamnick out, Jake Sanderson stepped up and played 30-plus minutes. From the puck drop in the beginning of the year to the final whistle at the end of the year, Jake Sanderson throughout looked like an NHL steady veteran. This guy is one of the best young defensemen I've ever seen, and we've seen guys like Erik Karlsson. I don't know if he's going to put up numbers like Erik Karlsson, but scoring 29 points this year as a defenseman who didn't get power play time for a good amount of the year is very encouraging for me, and I could definitely see him even next year putting up 40 to 50 points. So Jake Sanderson and the emergence of him has been a welcome sight for Ottawa, where suddenly Ottawa's blue line is a strength and not a weakness. As well, Brady Tkachuk, the captain, El Capitano. Brady Tkachuk, back-to-back 30-goal seasons. An absolute mad lad he is. An elite player. He solidified himself as one of the best, if not the best, power forwards in the National Hockey League. He's only getting better, and he's a great leader. Whether it was at Madison Square Garden, center ice fight with Jacob Trouba, or telling the Detroit Red Wings who wants it, Brady Tkachuk drags his team into the battle, and he took another massive step forward this year. And that first line with him, Stützle, and Giroux was absolutely insane, and Ottawa's best line since the pizza day. So an unbelievable year again for Brady Tkachuk. And Shane Pinto, speaking of Ottawa's top six and their success, Shane Pinto had a great season and a difficult spot. His first ever NHL season. It was a difficult spot for him with Josh Norris's injury, which we'll talk about later. But he put up 20-plus goals. As a rookie, in the top six in the Atlantic Division against Bergeron and Stamkos and Matthews. The list goes on. Barkov. There's so many great centers in the Atlantic Division, plus the NHL. Pinto had to line up against them on a consistent basis. Had a very good faceoff percentage, one of the best in the National Hockey League. Top 20 at times. This guy is only going to get better on the third line because he's defensively sound. The offense is there. He's going to dominate against lesser competition on the third line next year. Mark my words. But in a tough spot as a rookie, 20-plus goals. Incredible year for him. Erik Brannstrom on the back end. Speaking of defensemen earlier, like with Jake Sanderson, Erik Brannstrom, fantastic season. He emerged as an everyday two-way defenseman. Sure, the points weren't there all season, but later on in the year when he gained confidence, got power play minutes, looked fantastic. And even if he's not putting up the points, he's on the third pairing and he looks sound defensively, especially for a shorter statured, defenseman. He's a short guy, 5'9", 5'10" for NHL standards. He has looked fantastic. He doesn't get knocked off the puck anymore. He can take hits. He even lays out the body a little bit. block shots. He's absolutely an NHL defenseman. The conversation around this guy and him, whether or not he should be traded, has to stop, and has to stop now. He's a great defenseman. You can keep him cheap probably for the next few years. He has some offense to give as well. Can play on your second power play unit. Those are the type of guys you want in your NHL defensive core. Lock up Eric Brännström. An incredible year for him. He solidified himself as an NHL defenseman, no doubt. Now, on top of all of that, and the young core emerging and really blossoming and starting to take steps forward, like Stützle, his breakout year, Claude Giroux had an incredible season. A career high 35 goals. The guy's 36, putting up almost 80 points. Unbelievable. Reached 1,000 NHL points this season as well. It was a fantastic season for Claude Giroux. Whether it was the breakaway goal against San Jose, the slap shot one there, the 1,000 NHL points late in the year, Claude Giroux and the Ottawa Senators and their forward core, defensive core, and goaltending like Matt Sogard, who really took some steps forward, really looked good, and it's a reason for optimism moving forward because they all took a massive step forward, but more importantly, they all solidified themselves as the future of the Ottawa Senators and their core. So great to see. That's one reason why the season was not a failure. Now looking at the off-the-ice side of things, this is the first season in over 6 years. Yeah, over half a decade where attendance was in the positives and not on a decline from the previous season attendance numbers. The city cares about the Ottawa Senators again. You can feel it. You can see it. People are repping the Sens again. Everyone loves this team. Average attendance went up this year for sure, but not many people are talking about this. The average amount of fans per game this year was higher than 2016-2017, the year we went to the Eastern Conference Finals. We didn't even make the playoffs this year, okay? Season ticket numbers went through the roof as well. The city cares about the team again, and the city is starting to show up for games again as well. That's over 4,000 plus fans from last year's average. That is an absolute insane, remarkable year-round turnaround for the Ottawa Senators and the organization, and that is only a glimpse of what's to come. If you went to a game this year, you can feel the building. You can feel how different it feels, you can feel the energy, you can feel the passion again. The last few years when the Sens scored, maybe half the stadium stood up and clapped. Most people just sat there, didn't really care. The passion's there. Everyone's on their feet going crazy now. The building is rocking on a consistent basis like it's a playoff game in middle of January. The city and their fan base is back supporting this team, and that is more important than anything else because apathy kills franchises. So that is massive to see. There's also been like over 10 sellouts this year as well. So I mean, just in general, the off-ice side of things looks so much stronger, and that cannot come at a better time with new ownership coming in on the horizon in the next couple of months. We'll likely be finding out who the next owners of the Ottawa Senators are, right? So, the off-ice side of things, the financial side of things really picking up. Local sponsors, local businesses coming back, buying boxes, buying sponsorship opportunities from the organization, them buying in on the organization again, numbers going up. All these things could not have happened at a better time with new owners looking at the franchise, looking if they should buy it or not. So all these things, it looks like the stars kind of aligned perfectly this year in terms of the off-ice product and the off-ice, financial side of things. So in that perspective right there, this season is an absolute massive success. Massive success. After 6 years where attendance was on the decline, it's finally on the upswing again, and new ownership will be here by next season. So with attendance going up, the sky is the limit, and really the future looks so bright with a new future, a new era starting here in the nation's capital. I want to leave off this section of the video with this. Anthony LeBlanc, the Senator President of Business Operations, mentioned in February to Bruce Garriock and the Ottawa Sun, "We haven't seen this level of interest and buying at the Senators in over 10 years. In over a decade, the Ottawa Senators have not seen this much demand off the ice from the fans and as well businesses looking to buy season tickets, boxes, etc. So, the passion, the demand for tickets has not been this high in over a decade. So all things considered, this season is a success based off of the off-ice success financially for this franchise. Now, let's take a look at some reasons why the season might have been a failure for some people. So look, I mentioned on the ice, some core guys took a big step forward. Financially speaking, off the ice, this franchise as well took a massive step forward. But there are definitely some reasons why the season, in some people's opinions, could be considered a failure. Let's take a look at this. Firstly, another disastrous November killed our playoff chances before they even begun. This year in November, we went 4-9-1, and bad Novembers over the last couple of years have killed us now. 2 years in a row, 2021, we went 1-10-1. Is that on coaching? potentially, and a lot of fans would definitely agree with me, I think, on that point. The dump and chase does not work for a possession speed-based team, and the defensive errors that are consistent over DJ Smith's reign over the last few years here in Ottawa are too consistent. I'm sorry. Even with Chikrin brought in the fold and Chabot and Sanderson, there's way too many glaring defensive errors. And that's not only on the defense. The forwards, the back-checking has been disastrous this season. Far too often this season, you've had forwards caught up in the neutral zone, leaving an odd man rush going the other way for the defenseman, the poor defenseman, whether it's Chabot or whatever. What the hell are they going to do? And more often than not, that ended up in the back of Ottawa's net some way or the other. So, the forwards, they have to have some discipline. The coach has to hold them accountable. Some of these guys, like Batherson especially, and he mentioned this in his end-of-season interviews, that he needs to be better defensively and much more prone in his own zone to be more aware of the situations, because he was disastrous this year, one of the worst plus-minuses in the National Hockey League, and he's just one example of many forwards who really were lackluster defensively this year, and defense is a team issue. It's not just the defense, it's not just on goaltending. The forwards have to hold up their end of the bargain too defensively. So that, of course, is on coaching, hold your players accountable, but of course, at the same time, DJ Smith can't control what the players are doing on the ice as well. They have to play better. But once again, 4-9-1 in November, you just can't have it. That's a .320 percentage. You just cannot have that. Back-to-back years, killing your playoff chances, and really dampening the mood around the organization. It just cannot happen. It's happened a couple years in a row now, and once again, if you're chasing from behind, it's so hard to bounce back from that. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculously hard, especially in the National Hockey League with the loser point. If you go to overtime or whatever, you get a point. It's so difficult to keep up if you fall behind so early. So the disastrous November and early starts over the last few years have absolutely decimated the Ottawa Senators. Some of that's absolutely on DJ Smith, that stupid dump and chase. Once again, you have guys like DeBrincat and Claude Giroux, some of the best zone entry possession guys in the National Hockey League. Use them. Stop making them dump and chase. This is not Timbits hockey. Let DeBrincat and Claude Giroux enter the zone with their flawless possession abilities and skating abilities. Stützle as well. Whenever he does it on the power play, it's so great. Why don't we do it on 5-on-5? I don't understand it. Continuing on with coaching, the Ottawa Senators this year had a 15-21-5 record on the road. That is not good. That is terrible. I'm sorry. That is absolutely terrible. Ottawa has not had a winning road record over the last few years. In fact, and correct me in the comments down below, I'm just riffing right now, I didn't write this down, but I don't believe Ottawa has had one winning record on the road with DJ Smith as the head coach. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section down below, but I don't believe that's the case. So because of that, that's just another example of DJ Smith being out-coached. It's far too consistent where he's getting out-coached on the road. If you want to make the playoffs, you have to perform on the road. That's a historical thing. Everyone knows that. And if you have a below 500 record by a significant amount, 15-21-5, you're not going to make the playoffs. Now, their home record was great. Look, fantastic, 24-14-3, but it's much easier to win on the road. You have the last change, you have all these different advantages. On the road, it's much more important to win, especially for your long-term playoff outlook. Every team can win at home, but it's the teams that win on the road that really stand out and have a chance to make the playoffs. So this is another year where Ottawa squandered their playoff hopes on the road. Once again, some key losses on the road this year to Chicago and Vancouver. I mean, these are losses you just can't have. So the road record is a massive concern on top of the early starts under DJ Smith. It's far too consistent. I'm sorry. The poor record, the poor play, it's far too consistent. And I love DJ Smith as a person, but personally, I think the team needs either a fresh voice at head coach or at the very least, new assistant coaches to bring in a fresh perspective in the room, because right now the early starts and the poor road record show that the team needs a bit of a change of direction. If you want to keep DJ Smith around, fine, I totally get that. He's built the culture around this franchise. The players love him, but we absolutely need new guys as assistant coaches to hold the players accountable and bring in new ideas to the team. Once again, remember that conversation DJ Smith had with Alex DeBrincat and Claude Giroux? I think it was early in January. They had a conversation. Claude Giroux and DeBrincat kind of took over the power play and stuff, and suddenly Ottawa went off and started winning all these games. It's not a shocker. It's not a diss on DJ Smith, but new voices never hurt. So I definitely at least bring in new assistant coaching. Now, lastly, the bottom six this year for Ottawa, it did not show up. I mean, it was absolutely disastrous how little scoring they got from the bottom six, the bottom two lines. Only one bottom six forward scored double-digit goals this year. Only one scored double-digit goals. That was Derek Brassard, who, by the way, wasn't even signed until the last week before the regular season. He was a PTO. He was on a professional tryout. He scored 13 goals. Fantastic season. Absolute legendary year for him. 1,000 games. It's a great story, but I mean, if Derek Brassard, who wasn't even really penciled in to be a forward guy for Ottawa in their bottom six until the very last week last year, is your top scorer, there's a problem. The drop-off after that is also really sharp. You have Watson and Kaslik with 9 to 7 goals respectfully, but few of those goals, for both of them, came late in the year where Ottawa was basically out of the playoffs to begin with. So even if they score 9 and 7, after that, we're talking about 3 for Joseph, 4 for like Gambrell. I mean, there's not many goal scorers in the bottom 6 for Ottawa. You're not going to make the playoffs without depth scoring. And as well, Derek Brassard was the only player in the bottom 6 to eclipse 20-plus points. That's absolutely mind-boggling to me. The fact that Ottawa was even close to a playoff spot with such poor play in their bottom 6. So if Ottawa wants to make the playoffs next year, and I think they have to, I expect the playoffs, I know all of you do as well, the bottom 6 has to be upgraded and in a big way. Because I'm sorry, one 20-plus player is absurd. It's absurd. And it really is a testament to Ottawa's top 6 for carrying this team on their back, because the bottom 6 really let us down this season. Now, some of that, of course, is on Pierre Dorion, but I mean, we all like Kaslik and Parker Kelly and these guys going into the regular season. I'm not going to, criticize Pierre Dorion for that, but it's up to him this offseason to correct the wrong, bring in some guys like a Jesper Fast, for example, to solidify the bottom 6, bring in some scoring as well. Now, with that, let's get to my concluding thoughts. So overall, I consider this season a step in the right direction and not a failure. Was it a success? Yeah, somewhat. It definitely was somewhat a success. But there were certainly some blemishes this season as well. Realistically, with the Norris injury and inconsistency in the net, look, 7 different starters, it's not easy. That was a lot of adversity for this team to overcome. At the beginning of the year, I predicted Ottawa would miss the playoffs, but would be within 5 points of a playoff spot. They finished only 6 points out. So overall, especially with the injuries and inconsistency in the net, not too bad, all things considered. But next year, and as Brady Tkachuk said, we're not going to be done in April moving forward. Next year, playoffs. I expect playoffs. It's playoffs or bust. Now let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Am I right or am I wrong? Did you agree with my points about the season being a success? Did you agree with my points about the season being a failure? Or did you agree with my conclusion about a bit of both? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I look forward to reading and commenting and responding with all of you down there as usual. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all soon. Go Sens, go.